Okay, everyone, this is the Think Gen Wealth podcast with your host Amir Estiron, and I'm here today with Dr. Cardin Chellan.
Yes, that's right.
All right, out of here in the Dallas Fort Worth area, he has a chiropractor office that's been open almost a year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so for me, I've been with him for the past 3 months.
No, longer than that.
Longer than yeah,
Maybe like almost 6. I don't know.
seems like yesterday.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and to see the growth of his business
Yeah.
and how his business has grown has been really impressive. So I brought him onto the podcast just to have him, relate his story, and hopefully it's any inspiration or motivation for anyone out there to go and pursue their dreams, as he's pursued his. All right. So, Dr. Cardin, tell us a little bit about this. Let's just start from the very beginning.
Okay, so we can go all the way back. So I was born in South Africa. Moved here when I was about 6 years old, and pretty much because my dad, he was a pastor, so he moved to America for him to pursue church and whatnot, and he started some churches, and we moved around quite a bit. I mean, we moved to, if I can remember correctly, Kansas, Wichita, Kansas.
Okay.
We were there for a little bit, then we ended up moving to Mobile, Alabama. And then from Mobile, we moved back to Kansas, but this time in Overland Park.
Okay.
And then at that time, I was probably maybe 12. And then from Overland Park, Kansas, we moved to Texas. And then we pretty much have stayed in Texas, specifically Plano. That's where we used to live for the most part. So I pretty much grew up in Texas. And, even coming to the country, we did have some like rough spots as far as like immigration stuff going on because for a while I couldn't work, couldn't drive, couldn't do anything like that. Just because when we came to America, we came on a religious visa. And so when 9/11 happened, the government pretty much shut down everything. And the way that the bombing that took place, the guy, I guess, who came was on the same visa. So our visa actually like expired, and we tried to renew it, and they kept denying it. So we were kind of stuck for a little bit, but eventually we got good attorneys, and then we reapplied and did everything the legal way,
Okay.
and then we finally got through, and now I'm a U.S. citizen, which is great, so. And I've been a U.S. citizen now for probably about, I don't know, six years or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was kind of that story. And then as I went through school and things like that, the biggest thing I was just trying to figure out is like, what am I going to do? Because at that time, with all the immigration stuff that was going on, it kind of seemed like my future was on a pause, if that makes sense, because I couldn't work, couldn't do all that stuff. So I was trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do? But eventually, once things got cleared up, I started pursuing dentistry. And so that's, for whatever reason, I don't even know why I was going that way. But I was just kind of drawn to dentistry. And it probably started in high school when I was taking there was like this little medical course that they had.
Okay.
And I guess dentistry piqued my interest. And I went to like this, it was like it was a competition kind of where you go take a test and see who can place the highest or whatever. And I did pretty well on that. And it was, my specific topic was dentistry, the teeth and things. So I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll just, end up pursuing this way. And so ever since when I graduated, high school, in college, I was just basically taking prereqs to get into dentistry school. That's what I was doing. And I went to community college, and I was trying to take as many classes as I possibly could because it was so cheap, in community college versus university.
Mm-hmm.
So I got all my prereqs done, and I actually got into Baylor, and I was, going to transfer over there. And then all of a sudden I started getting, really, really bad headaches. So my parents, they were seeing a chiropractor at that time every now and then. And they were like, hey, why don't you just go check him out, see what he can do for you. So I went there, and I got adjusted, I think probably like twice. And I never really had a headache again after that. And the headaches I was getting was really, really bad to the point where like I couldn't work out and do things like that. So, um, so I got adjusted, and that kind of blew me away. No medication, no nothing. It was just 2 adjustments, and it was gone.
Wow.
So I was talking to the doctor there, and he was telling me about a school in Dallas, and then I just went and checked out the school, and then I transferred everything over and just got started in chiropractic school. And thankfully, it was the same prereqs, as dentistry school to get into chiropractic school. So that was great. And not knowing much about chiropractic at that time, I just started and transferred everything over. And the more and more I got into the program, the more and more I really liked chiropractic and what it was all about. And yeah, that's pretty much how I got started. And then, after I graduated and whatnot, I kind of knew how I wanted to practice. And I was very thankful because when I graduated, I had a job like the next day, and I was in a high volume practice. So, I mean, they were seeing probably, I don't know, 80 to 100 patients, a day, maybe.
Do you do you do you think, looking back at that, do you think you should have probably, did that help you going into a high volume chiropractor?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because, a lot of my colleagues didn't have the opportunity to work for such high volume practices. And so that's when, even though I was a chiropractor when I graduated, I mean, my skills were not like that great as far as adjustments, because with adjustments, it's a skill, it's an art, and it takes time to really, really get better at it. The more people you adjust, the better you get. And so when I was in that environment, that's how I really, really got good, as far as adjusting, and then just seeing different types of cases, because in school you learn things that are just textbook, everything is, oh, this is what this looks like. This is what this looks like. I quickly learned in real life, it's not like that. It's completely different. You might have one thing from one textbook, one thing from another textbook. It's never just picture perfect. So being in those, high volume practices, it really helped craft my skills, and I became very confident in adjusting, things like that. And after I left that place, I also went into pretty much, it was just personal injuries, so car accidents, things like that.
Okay.
That was another high volume. That was even more high volume than the one I was at before. And I wanted that experience because personal injury, it's kind of like a whole different ball game. There's certain things you can and can't do, and you gotta work with attorneys and whatnot. So I knew I needed that. If I was ever going to start my practice, I needed that exposure.
Okay.
So I did that for a little bit, and then after that, I went to another practice who they saw pretty much everybody. They did personal injury, they did like families too, and originally my game plan was to open up my own practice after 2 years.
Okay.
That was the game plan, but once I hit that 2 year mark, I just did not feel confident at all. And so,
I mean, what made you? Because if you're at two, two high volume practice, what still hindered you from really going forward?
starting your own.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It was I just didn't feel confident. Like I was really good at adjusting. I just didn't feel like I could own my own practice. I felt like there was a lot of things I wasn't seeing in the background, as far as, because in these businesses that I worked at, I didn't get to see the background of it. I didn't get to see like the skeleton of it, if you will, like how things were running. It was just me there as a doctor, just practicing, just adjusting and whatnot, So I didn't get to see the behind picture, because in school they teach you very slim amount of business, and that's pretty much why most chiropractors fail, is because they don't have a good business model. They don't know what they're doing. Even though they might be great adjusters, you still got to know how to run a business, because you're a businessman first, I believe, and then chiropractor after that. So because if you don't know how to run your business, you're not going to survive.
Yeah.
So the last place that I worked at before I opened up my practice, that's where I gained the most confidence. And the reason why is because I was a lot more in depth in that clinic. So when patients would come in, I would kind of walk them through the whole process, and we would do care plans and things like that. And I knew how to talk to them better. I knew how to get them to sign up for care, things like that. Because there is a little bit of sales to it, as far as chiropractic, because I have to kind of explain to you the value of it. Because chiropractic is not considered emergency type care, if you know what I mean. You make a choice on whether you want to do it or not. So being in that environment for 2 years, that's when I really started to become confident in me saying, man, I could do this now, And so it had been 4 years since I had been out of school.
Okay.
And then plus at the place that I was working at, I was working a lot. I was a lot because they were pretty high volume as well. And I was getting exhausted. And I always knew even when I was in school, I knew the game plan was to start my own practice. That was my goal. That's what I knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't know how to get there,
Okay.
So once I started to get to the point where I really started to realize, hey, I'm slowly getting ready. I'm getting better at this, more confident, whatever. I pretty much just applied for the loans that I needed, which was another, hurdle as well. And eventually got those, and then I just hit the ground running after that.
What made you, going through all that, what made you, going through the hurdles,
Mm-hmm.
what kept you afloat?
Man, just really, support, from my wife, and just I'm a very goal-oriented person.
Okay.
So when I have a goal, like, I'm very aggressive about it. I'll do whatever I can to hit that goal. So that was pretty much it, because I knew if I didn't start it, like, I would never know, if I would be good at this or not, or if I would be able to survive or not. And, once I was able to once I hit those different hurdles, I knew it was, good. And even before I got the loan, I tried I think I tried a year before that.
Okay.
To try to do it, because I was ready by that time and I couldn't even get the loan, to start my own business. Because the business loans that they wanted you to get, you had to have business credit, and I haven't had my business yet. So it's like a never ending cycle. And I had that once I found out I couldn't get a business loan from that point, which is a year before I got my official loans. Okay. I saved up a bunch of money just working. I just saved. And because I was going to put down capital, or not capital, collateral.
Okay.
Collateral, yeah, to help get the loan, and I had a game plan ready. And I mean, it was a lot of different things I was doing just to prepare myself. I was even looking into management groups, because in chiropractic, just like usually with any doctor, from what I've talked to other doctors about, there are multiple management companies out there. That there's management companies for dentists and medical doctors and chiropractors. And I probably went through maybe 3 or 4 different management groups, just trying to figure out how to do this, because I know with the management groups, they want you to do specific things. They know how to get you started. They've done it before.
Okay.
But unfortunately, you got to pay the money, every month to do all that stuff.
So you never had a mentor?
Not really, man. So what happened was, with these different management groups, I went through, let's see, probably, about 3 or 4. One of them, it was just like the way they were set up is just only adjustments. As small as you can get it, the less overhead, the better. You could start up in a 400 square foot room,
Okay.
It was kind of like that, right? And I knew that wouldn't fit me, because like I knew how I wanted my practice. I knew what therapies I wanted to do. I knew exactly how I wanted to treat people. So that business model didn't really work for me. And then I went to another business model, which was, it was good too. They were a little old school on how they were doing things, but they were the ones trying to help me get the loan as well.
Okay.
And they couldn't do it. They couldn't help me. And plus, on top of that, they wanted me to sign a contract for like 5 years, and I pay them, monthly. And if I didn't, like, let's say after 2 years, I wanted to break away from the company, I would have to pay the rest of the 3 years to them.
Oh, man.
So I was like, shit. I was like, nah. So I got away from that, right?
Okay.
And I've been,
Smart guy.
yeah. So now I was looking for other management groups because I really felt like I needed a crutch. I needed somebody to kind of walk me through things because I wasn't there yet, And then I found another management group, and I really thought this was the way, to go. And so I was talking to them, and it's so crazy, man, because like I'm a very organized person. Like if you're gonna, tell me, hey, we have an interview set up at this time. We're gonna talk about things. Like I'm prepared to be there on time. Every single time, like I was supposed to have it was a phone interview. I was supposed to talk to this guy. He would be late. He would forget, and I'm just, and he's a doctor too, and and I'm just like, if you guys can't even be on time to, take our calls and things like that, what makes you think like you're gonna help me start a business?
Correct. Yep.
On top of that, they wanted me to move from where I was at to a different location where there wasn't many chiropractors.
Still in
Texas,
okay.
But like it was like 30 to 45 minutes away, and my whole mentality is, that's not necessary. Like I could literally open up. I always believe this, that you could open up anywhere next to a chiropractor if you wanted to, and there'll still be enough patients, to go around, because there's a very little percentage of the population that are under chiropractic care,
Yeah.
So I didn't believe that me moving to another city, move my whole family to another city was going to make me successful. Like, I just didn't think that,
Okay.
but that's what they wanted you to do, because they wanted you to go after like manufacturing jobs, like people who work in factories and things like that. So that was their biggest motivation of finding a city. That makes sense,
So it would not been that family. It was more too businessy.
It was, I don't know, man. It would have just been a different clientele, and I ended up just leaving them because and I had signed a contract. They didn't have like a big contract. It was like month to month with them, but I got out in the first month just because I couldn't do it. And I didn't have any issues getting out, but I was thankful I got out of that one because I just didn't feel comfortable with it. Especially the fact that, dude, you couldn't even, be on time to a phone call. Geez, and you want to help me start my business, And plus, they were really old school. Like, they wanted me to go door to door to get patients and things like that. I was like, what?
Wow.
Yeah, door to door, man. Real old school types of things. And I just don't believe in this day and age. That's not necessary. You don't see doctors going to people's houses, like asking them to come to their practice. If someone did that to me, I'd probably be like, I don't think so. It would turn me off basically if I saw something like that happen.
I mean, how have you seen the chiropractic industry since you've been in it? How have you seen it change?
I mean, honestly, man, like, I kind of just focus on me, honestly. Like, it's hard to say, how the chiropractic industry has changed. Maybe I need to be more involved, but, there's a lot of, a lot of chiropractors, especially with social media, are doing a lot of things to grab attention, by doing, like crazy adjustments, things like that to make it look shocking. There's a bunch of chiropractors on YouTube that are just cracking people and making, noises and things like that, and not really doing much, because chiropractic is a lot more than just cracking and popping.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't like it in the fact that, because it puts chiropractic in a different, it shows them in a different way. Like, a crack is associated with less pain, if that makes sense. Like, I'm just going to go to chiropractor to get cracked. That's not what chiropractic is about. But these guys the good thing that they're doing is that they're getting in front of millions of people, and people are seeing it, wondering more about chiropractic, which is a good thing. People want to get adjusted and feel better, but chiropractic is a lot more than that. And that's the only thing I don't really like about the way chiropractic is going. And there's some chiropractors who don't even adjust, they just do like soft tissue stuff. And I mean, I don't know, man. It's just, many chiropractors do different things, but I've always believed that with chiropractic, you're a chiropractor first, so you have to adjust, which is basically, putting the bones in alignment. if you're not even adjusting, what are you? You know, a physical therapist? You know what I mean?
It's almost like that thin line.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, you know, like I'm a part of different chiropractic groups that, you know, just on like Facebook and stuff. And a lot of them don't like, you know, all that social media, like YouTube videos and stuff like that. Because it feels like exactly what I told you, like it puts a different image of chiropractic out there that's just pain based and like cracks and pops, you know, for views, you know what I mean? But then there are some chiropractors on YouTube that are doing like crazy things. Like there's people, you've probably seen a video with this guy, or maybe he's like hunched over, he can't even stand up straight. It was like this little boy, you know, and it was a chiropractor in, I believe in Australia or something, who helped him walk better. Like stuff like that is what chiropractic is all about.
Okay.
And a lot of people see that video and they're like, oh man, I need to go to the chiropractor, you know. And so there's some good things, there's some bad things about it, but for the most part, I just focus on me and what I'm doing, you know, and making sure I'm giving the best care possible and making sure patients are getting better. And I think that's why I've been successful so far, you know. I mean, this first year that we opened up, it's been, if you would have told me I would have been this successful a year ago, I would never have believed it.
Oh, okay.
It's just because there was so much fear behind starting your own business, you know, and, you know, I was pretty much, you know, the bread maker in my family when I was, you know, working in my past job. I was real comfortable, making a lot of money, and leaving that, you know, when I left my job, you know, that's when reality set in. There was a lot of doubt, fear, which is, I would say that's normal to experience, right? You know, you start your own business. But, you know, there was nobody supporting, you know, me and my wife, you know, besides, you know, the job that she had. But that didn't really cover, you know, most of our bills and stuff like that. So I had no crutches, I had no nothing. So I knew like I had to make this work as best as I can. There was one guy who was kind of like my mentor as well, which he was, I wouldn't say he was a management group. He was kind of like I'll say more mentor, I guess.
Okay.
But I was paying him a month, you know, small amount, just to kind of, you know, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe it was so cheap to pay him to help me that I couldn't say no, you know. But eventually, when I was going through his little program and watching his videos and things like that, I eventually got to the point where I'm just like, man, like I can do this on my own. Like there's no magic to it, you know. There's literally, it was because going through all those management companies, there was one fine line, and it's just there's no magic to it. You just gotta get patients, get them in the door, and treat them. That's basically it, right? And the biggest thing was just having organization, having a plan, and you'll be successful, you know? And that's the thing, is just like, that's the underlying theme that in all these different management companies, because everybody was saying the same thing. Honestly, they were just all saying the same thing. And I wasn't about to pay somebody all this money for them to just tell me what I already know, you know? So I ended up leaving that guy. He's a good guy, but I just didn't see the value in what he was bringing to me.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. So then I just said, you know what? Just cancel me my membership, whatnot. And I just hit the ground running, man. And I take into account like all my past experiences, and that's how I treat patients, you know, to the best of my abilities that I can.
Yeah.
And one thing, and I guess it might be my Christian values, but one thing I don't do is I don't let fear and I don't let money dictate how I treat people.
Yeah.
So when it comes to money, there's been patients who can't afford care, and I work out something for them, and I don't turn away anybody, no matter how much money you have. I just don't do it, because I know if you have to get care, where else are you going to go? You know, for somebody to charge all the different types of therapies I have, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I'd rather you come here and get better and not be stressed out about whether you're going to, you know, make your payments. Because there's some people who can't come here because they have to pay bills.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody's, you know, fortunate like that. So I realize that, and I know that, and I always try to help as much people as I can. And I've never even though I have bills to pay at the end of the month, every single month, and I will say my overhead is a lot more than the average chiropractor, because the average chiropractor, is not doing all these therapies that I have. I got X-ray, I got all these different types of things I got to pay money on. But even so, I didn't let that affect me in charging patients. So I always make sure that I treat everybody fairly. There's some cases where, I get people come for free, because they really, really needed it and they don't have any money. Um, and no one's taken advantage of that. Everybody's been really genuine, and I just don't let money dictate my actions. And I think that's what's allowed me to really like kind of flourish and do good, is because I'm more focused on treating patients, making sure they're better, and not really worried about the money. I mean, I am worried about the money. Obviously, I'm not dumb. I got to meet the budget, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I don't. That's just a thought in my brain. It's not my number one priority.
Yeah, and that's good you think like that, man. Because I can honestly say, even from like when me and my wife started coming to you, and I was cautious about chiropractic.
Yeah.
You've been to, I mean, I've been to chiropractic before, and I wouldn't say it was the best experience.
Sure.
So just hearing when we first signed up, and then the way you really took care of us,
Yeah.
which is much appreciated, and it makes you think, okay, there's a lot of, there's probably a lot of bad ones out there.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
find the good ones,
Yeah.
it's actually really providing value. Because even if we talk about this, and then someone comes and they need the adjustment, right? And then, I mean, yeah, you got bills to pay, but that's going to come back to you.
Right.
Eventually, it'll come back to you. So it may not be that person, maybe someone else.
Right.
So it's always, let's go with that whole karma.
Yeah. And that's the thing, man. There's good and bad in every profession, and so I just try to be one of the good ones, because I've had a lot of patients come to me and talk about the bad ones, and I'm just thankful that they came back, because there's some patients who go and have a really bad experience, and then don't want to ever go to a chiropractor again. I had one patient just the other day. She went to go see a chiropractor, and he took X-rays. She came back to go over the X-rays, and she told me she came in the room. He said, you need to get checked for rheumatoid arthritis and lupus, and then just walked out the room. That was it, and I was just like, what? It's like, it's not even good that he even said that in the first place, because he just, he had no blood test, no nothing. He was just like saying stuff like that, and that's not good. You can't do that. So there's definitely good and bad, and that goes with any profession. So I just try to be one of the good ones.
Oh, man. Well, I really, really appreciate your story today.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for sharing it. Thanks for learn some new stuff too.
That's good.
Yeah, you wanted to be a dentist to chiropractor.
Yeah.
It was always like that. As you're a kid, let's say you go to college, it's always what you want to do is not what you end up doing.
Exactly.
So that was good. And then you talked about the fear, but not letting fear dictate.
Right.
Is what happens to a lot of people.
Right. And that's the biggest thing, man. It's like even 3-4 months into practice, I was still kind of, afraid and whatnot and scared, because, I had to meet bills and everything like that. But and this is, kind of a religious thing, but like once I got to the point where, I was going to put God first in my life, no matter what. That fear thing kind of went away, because what I told myself was, after being 3 or 4 months into practice, in 3 or 4 months into practice, we were still doing, pretty well, honestly. Like, there was no reason for me to be scared, but it's just a fear. It's like, I started all this, I'm scared to lose all this.
Yeah.
But I got to the point where I said, praying to God and whatnot. And I just said, regardless if this fails or if I do really, really well, at the end of the day, I know he's still going to protect us. He's still going to take care of us.
Yeah.
And as long as I just put him first. And so what that did for me is it took away me holding so tight onto the business, because it's like, oh, I'm holding this business so tight that I don't want it to go away ever, So it freed up my mind. It freed up, my heart and just everything around the business, so that I let God kind of dictate what happens in the future,
Okay.
And so that it gave me such a peace, and don't get me wrong, like there's still moments where I get a little, some fear might creep in and whatnot, but that's normal. You're human, But at the end of the day, I still know.
Mr. Alex Productions.